Have you ever thought Disney fairy stories are messed up? Well, try this one on for size. There's this stepmother who literally removes her stepson's head, chops him up, and serves him as black pudding to his own father. And the dad? He's sitting there going, this is delicious, honey, while unknowingly eating his own kid. This isn't some twisted Reddit story. This is the Juniper Tree, a legit Brothers Grimm fairy tale that Disney sanitized so hard they couldn't recognize it anymore, because talking teacups are way less disturbing than cannibalism. These weren't just bedtime stories. They were survival guides disguised as nightmares. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Let us start with the woman who makes this whole horror show possible. This woman makes Cinderella's stepmother look like Mother Teresa with a cleaning obsession. We're talking about a woman who sees her stepson and literally thinks, you know what would solve all my problems? Unaliving my own son. Meet the stepmother who's got inheritance issues and a serious anger management problem that's about to get deadly. This woman doesn't just dislike her stepson. She's plotting his actual unaliving because money makes people do crazy things. You know how some people get weird about wills and inheritance? Well, this lady takes it to a whole new level. She's got her own daughter to think about, and every time she looks at this kid, all she sees is competition for resources, all because she wants her daughter to inherit everything. She literally opens up a tin of whoop-ass on this poor kid, and the dad is just nowhere to be found, which is classic fairy tale parenting right there. Where is this guy when his son is getting the crap kicked out of him? Probably out avoiding his family problems like dads did back then. I'm just saying, if your new wife is suddenly treating your kid like that, maybe that's a red flag worth investigating. But his obliviousness is setting up something way worse than just neglect. The woman is so consumed with greed that she starts planning the perfect crime. And spoiler alert, it involves a wooden chest. She's not just thinking maybe I'll push him down the stairs and call it an accident. No, this Karen is planning something way more elaborate. She's got this whole scheme worked out where she's going to use a chest with a heavy lid. What makes this even more twisted is how calculated her actions are. This isn't a crime of passion, it's premeditated unaliving that mirrors the devil's own temptation tactics. Think about it. She's sitting there plotting this kid's unaliving like she's planning a dinner party. She's like, okay, so I'll tell him there are apples in the chest, and when he leans over to grab one, I'll slam the lid down on his neck. So hard it removes his head clean off. Just like that. Problem solved. Well, except for the part where she now has a headless body to deal with. This then sets up the most disturbing dinner scene in literary history. She's not unaliving this kid because she's mentally unstable or because she snapped one day. She's unaliving him because unalive kids can't inherit property, and living kids can. It's cold, it's calculated, and it's probably way more common than anyone wants to admit. And you thought your family dinners were awkward? Because this woman is about to solve her body disposal problem in the most horrifying way imaginable. She's got a plan that's about to make dinner time the most horrifying meal in fairy tale history. Remember that time your mum made mystery meat and you didn't want to ask what it was? Well, this dad should have asked. The stepmother has just committed the perfect unaliving, but now she's got a body to dispose of and a husband to fool. You know what most people do when they accidentally unalive someone? They panic, call the police, or at least try to hide the evidence. But this Karen? She doesn't just hide the evidence, she literally serves it for dinner, and the dad has no clue what he's eating. The decapitation scene is so brutal that even the Brothers Grimm were like, maybe we should tone this down a bit. I mean, these are the guys who wrote about kids getting eaten by witches and girls having their feet cut off to fit into shoes. But even they knew this was next level disturbing. The original German text doesn't mess around. It straight up says the stepmother took the little boy and chopped him in pieces, put him into the pot, and cooked him into black pudding. That's not leaving anything to the imagination right there. She chops up the kid, throws him in a pot, and starts cooking like she's preparing Sunday dinner. The dad then comes home, walks through the door, sits down at the table and asks, "Where is my son?" You know what she does? She serves him the black pudding. And this dude just starts eating without questioning why his kid isn't at dinner. He's literally saying, "Wife, this food is delicious, give me some more." The father is sitting there picking meat off bones, tossing them under the table and going back for seconds. Talk about the worst possible timing for a compliment. In Grimm's time, this gruesome scene doubled as a warning about parental betrayal and the dangers lurking within families themselves. Think about it. A parent's job is to protect their kid, right? But here's a father who's not just failing to protect his son, he's literally consuming him. The story is showing us the complete breakdown of everything that's supposed to keep families together. Trust, protection, love. All of it gets thrown out the window when greed takes over. This isn't just some random gross-out moment either. The father unknowingly commits the horrifying act of eating his own child, revealing how these tales used extreme scenarios to teach about trust and deception. These stories were basically saying, hey kids, sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need to watch out for. The dad's complete obliviousness shows how easily adults can be manipulated when they're not paying attention to what's happening in their own homes. The story uses food and death in this really twisted way too. You've got the apple that started this whole mess, the black pudding made from the kids' remains, and later there's even a millstone that plays a role in the revenge. Everything revolves around consumption and destruction. It's like the story is saying that in this family, everything gets eaten or destroyed. Trust, love, and literally the children. And while he's licking his lips, his daughter is gathering those bones because apparently someone in this family has a conscience. While dad's having his disgusting dinner, the little girl is collecting her brother's remains. She's the only one who seems to understand that something horrible has happened here. At least somebody in this messed up family is trying to do the right thing. But here's where this fairy tale gets really weird, because the unalived son isn't the end of this story. You know how they say revenge is a dish best served cold? Well, this kid is serving it from beyond the grave with wings and a really catchy death song. The unalived boy doesn't just stay dead. He transforms into a magical bird with a mission and a voice that's about to expose everything. Most kids who get unalived by their stepmoms just stay dead, right? But not this guy. He's got unfinished business, and apparently death isn't going to stop him from getting even. This isn't your typical Disney resurrection. This bird is angry off, and he's got a song that's going to ruin some lives. You know how in Disney movies, when characters die, they just go to some happy place and sing about it? Well, this kid comes back as a bird, and he's not singing about rainbows and friendship. He's singing about murder and cannibalism. And he's making sure everyone knows exactly what happened to him. Here's how it actually goes down. A mist rises from the juniper tree and the bones vanish. Then this beautiful bird emerges from the branches. The juniper tree becomes this mystical portal where the boy's spirit gets a second chance, but not to forgive and forget. Folklore often cast birds as messengers between worlds, making this transformation both symbolic and functional. So when this kid's spirit needs a new body, the juniper tree hooks him up with some wings and a beak. His reincarnation as a bird represents the cycle of nature and justice, because apparently trees are better parents than actual parents in this story. The bird starts singing this haunting song that literally tells everyone exactly how he died, which is the ultimate "I told you so" moment. The key lines go something like, his mother unalived him, his father ate him, and his sister buried his bones beneath the juniper tree. That's not exactly the kind of song you'd want stuck in your head during your morning commute. He's not just singing for therapy. He is collecting payment from townspeople in the form of gold chains, red shoes, and a millstone. The bird flies around town performing his unaliving ballad, and people are so impressed by his voice that they start throwing gifts at him. But here's the thing. These people are hearing a song about child murder and cannibalism, and their response is basically, wow, what a pretty voice, here's some jewelry. The community's reaction shows how people can ignore horrible truths when they're packaged in something beautiful. The song serves as both confession and accusation, turning the boy from passive victim into active agent of justice. Before he died, this kid was just getting beaten up and murdered without fighting back. But now he's got a voice that can't be silenced, and he's using it to make sure everyone knows what his stepmother did. The repetition of the song ensures that the truth spreads throughout the community, making the bird an agent of truth and justice. You know what's really messed up? The townspeople care more about the song's beauty than its message. The goldsmith, the shoemaker, and the millers are basically like, oh, what a lovely tune about child unaliving, here's a gold chain for your troubles. They're completely missing the point that this bird is literally confessing to being a murder victim. But hey, at least the song has a good beat, right? The headless boy returns as a vengeful bird with a death song that exposes his murder and sets up the ultimate payback. This isn't about finding peace or moving on to the afterlife. This is about making sure his stepmother gets what's coming to her. The bird's transformation gives him the power to seek justice in a way he never could as a living child. And those gifts he's collecting? They're not random. Each one has a specific purpose in his master plan for revenge. The gold chain goes to his father, the red shoes go to his sister Marlene, and the millstone? Well, that's reserved for his stepmother's head. The bird isn't just randomly accepting donations. He's carefully selecting the tools he needs to complete his mission of revenge. But this whole twisted tale isn't just random violence thrown together for shock value. The religious symbolism runs deeper than most people realize. The Juniper Tree isn't just a twisted fairy tale. It's packed with biblical parallels that make Sunday school look like a comedy show. You've got temptation, cannibalism that mirrors the Eucharist, and divine justice executed by a bird. From the Garden of Eden references to divine judgment, this story is basically scripture with more blood and better special effects. The stepmother's temptation mirrors Eve's fall, the apple imagery connects to original sin, and scholars note parallels to biblical judgment throughout the tale. Think about it. She uses an apple to lure the kid to his death, just like the serpent used fruit to tempt Eve. The Brothers Grimm weren't just throwing random symbols around here. They were creating a story that connected directly to biblical themes that everyone in their audience would recognize. The apple isn't just a snack, it's the symbol of humanity's fall from grace, and this stepmother is basically playing the role of Satan himself. You know what's really messed up? The father unknowingly consumes his son's remains, and the cooking and eating of the boy's blood and body evokes a sacramental inversion that underscores the tale's moral weight. Christians eat the body and drink the blood of Christ as a sacred ritual, but here's a dad literally eating his son's flesh and blood without knowing it. It's like the story is taking the most holy act in Christianity and turning it into the most horrific violation possible. The bird that emerges from the juniper tree executes divine justice upon the wicked, revealing crimes and orchestrating punishment in ways that echo biblical themes of truth and retribution. This isn't just some random magical creature, it's literally divine retribution with wings. The bird's song reveals the stepmother's crimes and then orchestrates her punishment, which mirrors how divine justice is supposed to work according to Christian theology. These weren't just bedtime stories, they were moral instruction manuals disguised as entertainment, teaching kids about good, evil, and consequences. The story even takes place well on 2,000 years ago, which grounds it in biblical times and makes the religious connections even more obvious. Kids hearing this story weren't just getting entertainment, they were getting a crash course in Christian morality wrapped up in a tale about murder and revenge. Disney cut out the blood soup and most moral complexity, trading survival lessons for song and dance. When Disney takes a story like this and turns it into something about talking animals and happy endings, they're basically ripping out the entire point. The original tales prepared children for a world where stepmothers might actually hate them, and adults couldn't always be trusted. You know what Disney teaches kids? That stepmothers are mean but ultimately harmless, and that everything works out in the end with a song and dance number. By removing the violence and moral complexity, Disney turned cautionary tales into empty entertainment that actually makes kids more vulnerable. J.R.R. Tolkien actually criticized the censorship of fairy tales, and he cited the Juniper Tree as an example. Tolkien believed that children should not be shielded from the gruesome details, including the black pudding and the bones, often omitted in softened versions. He argued that these elements are essential to the story's impact and moral lessons, and that shielding children from them undermines the purpose of fairy tales. The millstone that kills the stepmother would have had biblical connotations for readers back then, especially since Luke 17:2 says that anyone who causes a child to sin would be better off being thrown into the sea with a millstone about his neck. The bird literally drops a millstone on her head, which is divine justice served biblical style. The disturbing biblical parallels reveal how fairy tales served as religious and moral education, which Disney's whitewashing completely eliminated. So next time someone complains about Disney being too sanitized, remind them they literally took survival manuals and turned them into princess movies. These stories weren't meant to make kids feel safe and cozy, they had a much more important job to do. The Juniper Tree reveals that fairy tales were never meant to comfort children. They were warnings about real dangers disguised as stories, and Disney's sanitization turned survival guides into empty entertainment. These dark tales persist because they teach essential truths about human nature, family dynamics, and the real threats kids face. Lessons that princess movies simply can't deliver. Maybe fairy tales were the original true crime podcasts. This tale warned of real dangers in stepfamilies, teaching children to spot hidden threats before they became victims. The real takeaway isn't just about evil stepmothers, it's about recognizing when the people who should protect you might actually be the ones you need to watch out for. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next incredible story. Also, drop a comment on which Grimm tale you'd dare to read, if any.